Okay, so we're here again with Phoebe from Ancient Pathways, Phoebe Hogendijk, and we're going to discuss what ceremony is all about, what it means to her, and what it means to the way she runs her life, and the importance of ceremony in general. So, Phoebe, it seems that ceremony in general, when we're talking about it, has been left out to a large degree in our lives compared to way back. Would you see it that way?
I do, yes, especially shamanic ceremony or the ceremony of the ancient tribes. We've lost that connection to the planet, and that's how we used to stay connected to the planet and to our tribes, was through ceremony on the different times of the year, the important times of the year. It kept us connected to the universe or the multiverse, or however you want to speak about it, because in my understanding, when the universe created itself, it created itself on many different levels, and so we are actually living in a multiverse. And if you want to stay connected to all there is, then it is through ceremony, through acknowledging, and for me, a ceremony is acknowledging my part or my place within all that is.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because I know that there was a lot of ceremonies that were done on things like solstice and equinox, whether you look at the Celts or whether you look at so many different races, and they had it down to a fine art, didn't they?
Absolutely, and the whole tribe took part, and it meant something to them. It was like you get to a point in time where you say goodbye to what has just passed, and you're welcoming in the future.
I've got to move that.
And I think I might just move this a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah, so you're welcoming what is to come in the future, and you're setting your intent for what it is you would like to come into your life. But it wasn't only just you that did it. You did it in a tribal situation, and there are also times when it was just the women who would create a certain energy for the tribe, or the men would get together and create a certain way of being or energy for the tribe. And the same with the children. They would have their own little ceremonies that they were taken through until they could then do the adult ceremony.
So are there specific ceremonies that you do throughout the year or at the end of the year, or that sort of thing?
Yes, there are. Whenever anyone in our life or family passes, we always do a ceremony, or a friend, whatever. We do a ceremony to celebrate their life and the time that they were here, to acknowledge their passing back to spirit, to acknowledge and in gratitude what it meant to have them in our life, and to be able to let them go, because we understand that for them to be able to move on, we need to do a ceremony of letting them go.
And releasing, yeah.
And we celebrate the phases of the sun and the moon, the solstices, the equinox, coming into the light out of the darkness of winter, coming into the light of the spring and summer, of moving from the fallow times into more abundant times, of celebrating the quiet time and now moving into the time of rejoicing, of being one with the earth. What all these ceremonies did was help us to stay connected to the seasons, to the cycles of not only the earth but of the multiverse, of the universes, of each other. And we have lost that connection to each other. We've lost that connection to tribe. And what is happening now, and which is wonderful, is so many people are now reaching out to be reconnected, and so hopefully we'll be able to help people to begin again to celebrate and reconnect with each other, with the earth, with the stars, the sun, the moon, because we are all part of that.
Yeah, that's quite fascinating. Do you think that I heard around the Christmas time, the summer solstice, or would be the winter solstice, which was the original way of celebrating, was an older ceremony in itself, around about the 21st rather than the 25th. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, a little bit. I know that the churches came along and hijacked the date because they didn't want people to be, this is how I see it, it's just my point of view, they didn't want people to be coming together on the 21st, on that very powerful time. They are incredibly powerful times. So they're, all the solstices, equinoxes, and these times are times when the veils between the worlds are very fine, are very thin, so we can move between the worlds, so we can gather our strength when we become strong as people together. And if you want people to be able to manipulate or control that energy, then you set up your own time and date. And this is my understanding of what happened, is they moved the date away from the true date of the celebration, the true time when it should have been celebrated, when that energy could go out, where we could put it out as a tribe out into the universe to keep us, to spirit, to keep us all connected to spirit and keep us all connected to each other.
I know that there was also a prophecy of the rainbow tribes and of people coming together from different nations and things. So what is it that our listeners could start to do in their lives in a way that would help?
Okay, is to start small, start beginning to do ceremonies, start beginning to do them in the solstice. If you don't know when the solstice and equinox is, go and look it up and go and do them. What we do at the end of each year, which is very special and sacred to us, that's what I'm meant to say as well too, is make it sacred, make it something that means something, make it something that's really special. I know for a lot of people, Christmas has lost its specialness. So why don't you make it, instead of Christmas, why don't you make it a celebration of releasing the past year and welcoming in the new year to come, especially if that year that we've just been through has been a huge challenge. So what I do, and what Paul and I do together, is we get together on New Year's Eve. And no, we don't get together. We might, but anyway, we get together, and it is a sacred time for us, and we sit on the land somewhere, and what we have are the notes that we wrote down from the previous year's ceremonies, and we go through that. And this is not only for our business, it's for ourselves, for our relationship, for everything, everything that happened in the year before, and we review it. We go through it from a business point of view, we go through it from our relationship point of view. We look at what we set for last year and see what goals we reached and what goals we didn't. We don't blame ourselves for what goals we didn't reach, but we look at why we didn't reach them and whether they were just things we wanted or whether they were things that were necessary for us to reach. And then we let it go. And then we set a new intent for what we want for the coming year. And what we'll do is we'll actually go through point by point with each other what we liked about the year, and this is for business and our relationship. So we do the business first, then we do the relationship, what we liked about how the other person behaved or didn't behave that year, what happened in business that we'd like to change, what we would like to change in our relationship. Because we said right at the very beginning when we came together that our time together was going to be for as long as it was meant to be. For as long as we could compromise to where we weren't compromising ourselves out of the relationship. To where there was always going to be, we set out right at the very beginning in our relationship what would be deal breakers. And we have a look and we see whether we've reached any of those deal breakers or not, whether we can change how we behave. And we do it without judging the other person, we do it without criticizing the other person. We just state it as it is, as it was, from our point of view of how it made us feel and what we would like to see changed. We have always agreed that if it got to a point where we could not compromise or change anymore, then it would be time to leave. So far, so good.
So about communication, this
it
is as well,
absolutely.
isn't it? And reviewing, small chunks of your life rather than getting to the, a long way through it and realizing, hey, this isn't working and I've had enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something we we'd get people to do all the time, is if you're having a lot of trouble in your relationship, stop. If you're having a lot of trouble, this goes for business as well, stop and review. Have a look at where you're going wrong. Have a look at where you really wanted to go, and then talk to each other. But allow the person to say what they need to say without judging, without question on your part, and then they allow you to have your say without judging, questioning on your part. And it's said as a statement, not as a not coming from a point where you're blame. It's not coming from blame, it's not coming from judgment. You just sit and you make a statement of fact of what happened during that year. And then we get to celebrating the coming in year. And what we tend to do is we have a little ceremony. It's based on the South American despacho ceremony, and we lay out in paper, because we normally burn it. You can bury it. And what we put into this little package that we're creating are things that represent what we want for the next year, for the business, for the relationship, for our families, for the earth. And we put it all in, like we might sprinkle little stars, something to say that that represents us keeping connected to the universe. We might put a note in that looks like money, that represents abundance coming in. We'll put pieces of fruit and put leaves and bits of trees and flowers and all sorts of things like that to represent abundance in beautiful things. Anything that may represent your home, what you would want for your home for this coming year. And then it's just anything, for your family, for everything. Just something, you can cut it out of a magazine, it could be anywhere. If you're going to burn it, make sure that everything you put into this little package is going to be burnable and is not going to create pollution. So you package it all up very neatly with a lot of respect. We do it with a lot of prayers. Our prayers go something like, we gift this back to the earth, we gift it to spirit, and we ask that all of this and joy and abundance comes to us in the coming year. And we celebrate letting go of that last year, and then we'll burn it or we'll bury it. And then we have a little glass of wine. It's the only time in the year that we actually have a little glass of wine. And we celebrate moving on and letting go of the past and moving into a whole brand new future. And we celebrate everything in the now.
That sounds fantastic. Sounds like a great thing to do. Phoebe, another question that I'm wondering if our listeners too would be thinking about, and that would be, maybe we don't have a tribe. Maybe some people are on their own or close to being on their own. And so what sort of things could they do if they haven't connected up with others to do, certain ceremonies? I know the dispatcher would be good, but can you think of anything else that would work as well?
Absolutely, there is so much that people can do on their own. The one thing that I really love doing is watching the sunrise. It is just so amazing and empowering to be able to just sit and breathe in the sunrise. And my favourite place to do that is just about anywhere. But if I could choose, it would probably be on a hill, watching the sun come up and just breathing it in. I know when I was in Africa and I was sitting on top of the mud brick building that we had slept on top of, and it was on top of an escarpment which was right down below the mud brick building was about a 2-mile drop straight down onto the valley floor. Actually, it wasn't the valley floor, it was the Little Sahara. And as far as the eye could see, from there right out to the horizon was the Little Sahara Desert. And I'm sitting there on the top of this mud hut watching the sun come up, and I think it was one of the most profound experiences that I've ever had in my life, and I felt so connected to everything, and it was such an amazing moment, and I have never forgotten that. And if I remember it and go to that moment, it connects me to all there is, and I don't feel alone. So for people who are feeling alone and want to do ceremony, go to that place that you feel comfortable with, that makes you feel nurtured. It could be on the beach, it could be in the bush, it could be your favourite rock, it could be somewhere in your own little garden, it could be a room in your house. And just sit and breathe. And breathe in that moment. Breathe it into your heart. Remember in that moment what it was and what it's like to be loved. And allow yourself to be filled not only with your own unconditional love, but with the love of the universe and all there is in spirit. Just allow it yourself to breathe it in. See it coming in through the top of your head, down into the earth, up through your feet. See it go through all of your body. Allow it to fill your heart and your body with absolute love. And you've just surrounded yourself with unconditional love anyway. There's one thing that I do in my clearing sessions, and that is I give people their soul colour. And you might ask how you do it, but I'm going to teach you how to do it. So what I want you to do, not right now, in a moment, what I want you to do when I say is to tap your finger to your third eye and allow a colour to come to you. So when that colour comes to you, that is your soul colour. And once you've done that, I'll explain what your soul colour is. So 1, 2, 3, tap. And immediately my soul colour came to me. My colour is this most amazing cobalt blue. So whatever colour came to you, whether you like it or not, is your soul colour. Now for me, soul colour means when the universe woke itself, or the multiverse woke itself and became everything it is, right in that spark, right in that moment, everything that was to be is the past, the present, the future. Everything was there right in that moment. So what you can do, the most powerful thing that you can do, is to surround yourself with that soul colour, because what you do immediately is surround yourself with unconditional love. You have just surrounded yourself with all that you are. You've just connected yourself to all there is. So you can't be alone. That is one of the most profound ceremonies that you can do, is to do the despacho. Go to your place of power where you can follow your heart and live your dreams.
Oh, Phoebe, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to interview you today, and I'm sure lots of people would have got some great stuff out of that. So thank you again.
Thank you.